Hey everybody, this is Jared, and today we're going to be talking about breath management. Sorry, I'm still getting set up here just a little bit, but it's going to be fun. I don't know how well you can see me. I've got the screen reverse, which I don't usually do, and so I'm not sure. But at any rate, we're going to be talking a little bit about how this thing called breath support that a lot of singers like to talk about, and a lot of vocal coaches like to talk about as well. This thing called support and what that means, and we're going to be diving into what I prefer to call breath management, because I really do have a problem with the word support. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. As people are coming in, then you'll just jump into the conversation here in a second. But my problem with the word support really is that it tends to create tension in the body. Now, what I mean by that is, just by the verbiage, I really do believe that language is important. And so just by changing our language just a little bit, by saying the word management instead of the word support, when people think support, because it was such a well understood idea in the voice community for so long, like they start thinking about way down here, and they start thinking about how I'm going to try and force something. And so in that way, I think that it really is. Has some bad connotation, and has put us into some bad habits that we continue to go and repeat. So, all that to say, I really do prefer the term management, because I really do think that breathing can be better understood in this text. We're not forcing something, we're not holding on to something as far as the breath is concerned, but we're really trying to make the best use of what we know to be true. So let's just jump right into this thing, breath management. Now, I think that there are three key areas to think about when we think of breath management. Usually, when we think of breathing, even in like health classes, I don't know, maybe you went through a health class and you talked about the respiratory system, or a biology class or something like that. But usually, teachers and students, we like to think of breathing in two parts, and that is, say it with me, everybody, right? Inhalation, which is breathing in, and exhalation, breathing out. And so the combination of those two things is what we understand as breathing. And we're going to be talking a little bit about breathing for singing here, but it applies to lots of other things, public speaking, and several other areas. If you think of breath management, it applies to those areas as well. But specifically for singing, we think of these two things, and this support idea we've got wrong in our brains, and so we're trying to change the thinking by changing the language. Lost my train of thought here. What do you do? No, I'm back on track. So what the two areas, inhalation, exhalation, what I think we're missing from this is a secret third step, which create a breath management triangle, if you will. And that is this time between inhalation and exhalation. This time between, which many people like to call... Sorry, got something stuck in my throat. Oh my gosh. So inhalation, exhalation, and the missing link, which is suspension. And so suspension, what it essentially means is that we are suspending the feeling of inhalation, the sensation of inhalation, before the exhalation happens. Now, breathing for singing is a little bit more explosive than breathing for just normal, average, ordinary life. You don't have to worry about how many counts I need to exhale on. I don't have to think about how long the phrase is. I don't have to think about, I don't get another breath for a long time. You just breathe. And then it's done, right? It's like you don't even have to think about it. It is a natural process. But breathing for singing, breathing for speaking, breathing for something other than just living, you've got to be intentional about your breaths, when you take them and how you take them. And sometimes time is of the essence. It just is what it is. We are so caught up in these in the micro of, okay, I've got to get this note right, and I've got to, intonation's important and things like that when we're singing. And so sometimes breath goes to the wayside, but it's such an integral part. It's so important. So this breath triangle of breath management. So let's talk about inhalation a little bit. Let's really break down the triangle here. So at the top of the triangle, if you're looking at it here, is, did I just go cross-eyed? I don't know. Is inhalation. And inhalation is breathing in. So what happens when you breathe in, right? When you inhale, air goes in. So the first thing is the diaphragm descends, right? It makes room. The air goes into the lungs. So the lungs expand outward three-dimensionally, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but three-dimensionally the lungs expand. And then the diaphragm descends as the lungs expand to make room, to push the viscera and all the other stuff out of the way in order to make room for more air. So the intercostal muscles, which are the muscles that happen between your ribs, your individual ribs, they also create space, more space for more air to come in. So that's the first thing that happens. Now, let's talk about the diaphragm. There's a common misconception that the diaphragm is like really, maybe it's like right up front, and that it is like this really thick mass, maybe more like a liver or something. Of course, we know it's a muscle, so that's the first thing we've got to talk about. And it's really flat and wide, and it actually goes a lot further back than I think most people think of, because it truly is that separation thing, and it helps so much in this inhalation exhalation process of our respiratory system. And so the diaphragm, a very flat, wide muscle, descends to make room to help the inhalation process. And it's wide and flat. And so what that means for us is that it also contributes to the ribs in the back. What I want you to do for just a second is take your hands, and I don't think you can see this. I'm going to adjust this thing just a little bit. So we're going to go a little bit lower than that, so you can see what I'm doing. So I wish I was a little bit taller here just for this shot. But what you want you to do is take your hands and just touch your ribs, and then exhale. Just relax all of this, and then inhale for a second. Now, oh yeah. So notice what happened with me. My arms went like this, right? The ribs expanded outward. Now, what I want you to do is also take your hands behind your back and put right between your shoulder blades, and then just touch your middle fingers back there. And then what I want you to do, I'm going to turn all the way around. I hope I'm still in the shot. Is to do the same thing. Take a deep breath in, and make sure that those fingers separate when you breathe in. Relax and breathe in. Notice how, and I'm suspending right now, but notice, actually I'm exhaling, but did you see? I don't know if you could see it very well in the shot, but my fingertips separated. So what this should tell you, I'm going to bring it back up. What this should tell you is that breathing, inhalation, is three-dimensional. It goes all the way across. It's not just in the front. It's not just up here, clavicular breathing, which some people call it, where it's like this little area. This is the only part of your lungs that are filling up with air. That's not enough. You've also got to engage this back sensation. It's got to be three-dimensional breathing. So that's inhalation. The intercostal muscles, which happen between your ribs, and your ribs are also back here. They go further back, and your diaphragm is wider, flatter than you think it is sometimes. But all of this helps to make as much room as possible for the lungs to take in as much air as possible. So that's the first step. Then, of course, we know about exhalation, which is simply, I think I messed up my collar a little bit, which is just simply expelling that air, right? And so what that means is the opposite happens. And in the reverse order, the diaphragm ascends to help and expel the air. The intercostal muscles between your ribs contract to make less space. The lungs compress, because of the release of air, and then the air comes up and out of the mouth, and is expelled from the body. So those are the two main processes. And then suspension, which we're going to talk about here, the sense of is this sense of inhalation, and then just suspending that sense. So maybe to get a better sense of that, you just inhale very quickly, like a quick catch breath, and smile while you do it. And what I've done here is I haven't closed off the throat. I haven't caught the breath. It's as if I could keep breathing in, and all of the space, I want you to see this. Oh man, you can't see it, I don't think. But I wish you could see all the space that's in my mouth here. Hold on, let's see. Oh man, that light's not gonna work. Okay. Well, I was gonna grab a table light from over there, but it didn't work. So the space that I used for inhalation stays the same. Now I'm not like the breath isn't trying to come out. Everything is still fully expanded and is continually trying to expand some more. And I'm just ready to expel the air. Sorry. Right? It's go, go, go. It's right there ready, and I don't have to engage anything to make sound for singing. So that suspension is so important in this processes of breath management: inhalation, suspension, and exhalation. So without these three things, this triangle of breath management, then I just, hey, I see a couple people jumped on. That's pretty cool. So, hi. So this inhalation, exhalation, and suspension system of breath management is kind of what we're going for. Now, what we're going to talk about is now that we know what inhalation is, and remember we're doing three-dimensional breathing, it's all the way around. So the flat, wide diaphragm and the intercostal muscles and in your ribs, and your ribs are of course also behind you as well as in front of you. What we're going to do is, now that you know kind of a little bit about the system of breath management, then now let's talk about some strategies for improving your breath management. And so one of the things that we like to do in choir rehearsals in order to improve our air capacity is simply to go in for 2 counts and then out for increasing numbers of counts. So that's usually that's 8, 12, and 16. So the beat remains the same, and then either you do it out on a what we call fricative sound, so like a that's a F sound, as if you were going to say French fries, right? That for inhale for 2, out for 8, then you inhale for 2, out for 12, and then inhale for 2, out for 16. And then you see that's a way to manage the breath, because it forces you on the shorter counts to expel more. The goal is to expel all the air in your lungs every time perfectly. Like you cash, if you're thinking of it in terms of like, you know, money or something, like you got money in and you're trying to get to 0, right? Every time you're trying to hit it right on the mark. It's like bullseye every time. And so we take air in for 2 counts, so you have to take in quick air, and then you have to expel 100% of it. So for the shorter counts, the 8, you have to expel more quicker. On the 12, it's kind of a middling number. And the 16, you've got to do the opposite. You have to conserve air in order to make it the whole time. So if you're watching there, either live or on the playback, whenever you're watching this, why don't you try that for just a second? I'll do exactly what I just said I was going to do. And so we're going to do it on an F sound. So in for 2, and I'll say 1, 2, ready, breathe. We breathe together on the word breathe, and then we expel the air for 8, and then as soon as 8's over, we start the process back over. So in for 2, out for 8. In for 2, out for 12. In for 2, out for 6. I think you get the idea. So here we go together. 1, 2, ready, breathe. Breathe. Twelve. Off. So usually when I do that with a choir, I do the counts out loud. So I go 13, 14, 15, 16, and then I give them feedback. How did you do? Did you make it all the way to 16? Yes or no? And then we try it again. We say, okay, this time try, if you made it all the way, try expelling more air faster and see if you can increase the dynamic level 1, increase your volume level 1. I think this would also be very applicable to public speakers if they wanted to increase their breath management, because it does exactly, it's the same thing for singers, right? Where we control how much we intake because we can't ruin the cadence of a speech. We just can't. You know, speech, debate, public speaking, it's all the same. Singing, it's all the same. You can't ruin the cadence of what you're trying to accomplish. There is a rhythm, even if you're in theater or whatever, there's a rhythm to things. And if you break that rhythm, then you lose some momentum, you lose some interest. There's a lot of things that go along with that. So I think this is applicable to everybody. So what we do is after one time, we try it again. And then what ends up happening is you attempt to either expel more, or if you didn't make it all the way to 16, then you expel less. You try and rein it in. So that's one method of doing it. The other one is what we call ABCs. And so this time you pick a pitch, bum, bum, ba, 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 ba. So this is about an F sharp. And so you take this F sharp and you go A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. You go through the entire alphabet on this singular pitch, and you can do this at home or in the shower when you're warming up your voice or getting prepared for whatever you got going on. You can jump on this singular pitch in the middle of your register and then go through and see how far you can get. If you can make it to Z, you were probably holding too much back. If you can make it to TS, like, you're pretty good. Like, if you can't make it to TS, you need to save some of that air. Save some for later, and then try and get further. So you do this 2 or 3 times. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. And you try not to fluctuate in the pitch. And you try and get as far as you can without breathing. And so over time, if you do this for a week, once a day for a week, twice a day for a week, then hopefully you get further and you can increase the dynamic level. And that should help you with this breath management idea. I'm going to jump on the comments real quick. Oh, I cannot see it. Well, that's okay. I've never done this live stream thing before, so I thought I would be able to see the comments that are happening. I don't know if any of you are asking questions. I was going to do Q&A, but I just can't figure it out. Maybe next time. So for VLOGtober, this is day 6, and I hope that you have got something out of this. I'm wrapping up here. So thank you, those of you who tuned in live. And if you're watching this back on the playback, make sure to jump in the comments and ask questions about this idea of breath management. And also, the plan is for every Saturday of this month for me to do the same thing. Just jump on here and talk about either something that's important and related to music, singing, music ministry, something to that level. And so every Saturday, we'll see how it goes. But I really do appreciate you joining me on this Saturday morning, and go in peace.